Good morning.
Well, good morning. How are you?
It's nice to see you, Dr. Churchill.
Good to see you again. I didn't know I was to be talking to you this morning. Oh my goodness.
Yes, Dr. Churchwell. It's very nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
The last time I talked to you, you were because you're the chair of the New Haven Symphony Orchestra board,
Yes.
and I hosted the conversation
That's right.
around the response to the George Floyd and Black Lives Matter and all of that.
That's
And
right.
the symphony responded with music and conversation, and it was rich. It was very, very rich. And that's when I learned that you were the chair. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, I had no idea there was that many Black people over there at the symphony. Number one. Listen, my phone rang off the hook for weeks after that. They were like, "Oh my God."
I mean, it's a funny story. I used to live in Nashville. I live in Nashville. I grew up in Nashville, but I lived in Nashville for my professional career for 17 years after I'd left fellowship, or 20 years I'd left fellowship. And as I was leaving Nashville, I was asked to be president of the Nashville Symphony Orchestra. And my wife had to remind me of this because I had forgotten, and I actually had to turn it down because I was actually I'm thinking about transitioning here to New Haven. Well, it's a small community. I mean, I'm in my office like a week and a half, and Elaine and Burton Alter are in my office one day, and they introduced themselves, and I said, "How do you guys even know I'm here?" And they said, "Oh, well, the people in Nashville, they told us you were moving."
See, that's how you know you're in demand when
you're right.
When they want good people looking for good talent, they want you everywhere. So how are you doing? So listen, you wake up one day, you're already the vice president. The job for president comes up. Do you say to yourself, or you look at your wife and you say, "You know what, honey, I should throw my hat in this ring"? Is that what happens?
No, I didn't know. They
came to
me and said, "We'd like for you to be president."
And so do they make you an offer you can't refuse, or do you take time to think about this? How does this work?
Well, I've been, I'm born and raised as a clinical cardiologist. So I started in this in 1994, seeing patients and enjoying it to a tremendous degree. And over time, opportunities to expand the overall horizons, both from a clinical standpoint, but also administratively in terms of the development of heart and vascular institutes, which I did at Vanderbilt, sort of began to show themselves. And in that, the idea and the capabilities of developing leadership qualities and capabilities started to sort of evolve. And this side of what medicine is really began to appeal to me, because in a great sense, it's just not the 3,000 or 4,000 patients I used to take care of in Nashville. It's actually hundreds of thousands of people you actually have impact on.
Wow.
And thinking about the development of plans and processes and hopefully opportunities to improve their overall life from a healthcare perspective, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why I became a doctor, I think. I mean, so with that, the idea of taking on the responsibilities of senior VP and then executive vice president and then chief operating officer, now president, to me has seemed like more of a natural progression of the experiences I've had previously, the opportunities that have presented themselves, and also, what does one want to accomplish in life in terms of making an impact? So
does it take you away from seeing patients? Like, are you done with that part of your life?
Now, unfortunately, I'm done with that part of my life. I haven't actually, it had become very difficult in Nashville. And when I actually transitioned here to New Haven, I really couldn't keep a practice. But, again, the impact that you can have is not just that one patient, but it's really multiple, tens of thousands of patients. And from my perspective, in regards to what we can actually try to accomplish in developing the plans and with all of our constituencies, all of our partners, and improving overall health. So in that respect, I don't miss it as much as I thought I would. Do I get in the way sometimes? Probably. I got an opinion. Now, you don't have to listen.
I don't know. You're the president now. I think everybody's got to listen.
But
so talk to me about how did you know you wanted to be a doctor? When did that light bulb go off for you?
Oh
Were you
God.
10? Were you 8? Were you 5? Were you 20? When did you know?
Questions that to ask. Oh my gosh. When I was 14 years old, I was in the ninth grade. And there was a project. We were asked to write a paper about what type of profession you wanted to go, you thought you would actually go into when you were an adult. It was in the economics class, ninth grade, East High School, Nashville, Tennessee. So in preparation for that paper, I thought about it, and I said to myself, I want to be a physician. Because my developing interests in science and in math and in dealing with and helping people, it seemed like that was going to be the right combination to be able to do that. I have an older brother. He's 8 years older. He is a cardiologist by training also. And so I had that example. Interesting enough, he's now he's vice chancellor of diversity and inclusion for Vanderbilt University, as well as a cardiologist. So, everybody's road is not exactly straightforward. It has a lot of twists and turns. Mm-hmm. So I had that as an example. So at that particular point, I made a plan for my life. And that plan was I was going to be a physician. I was going to go to Harvard for undergraduate. I then would go to medical school. I planned on being then a clinical research scientist physician as part of my professional life. So that's
so you knew that. So what did your parents say? Like, tell me about your people. Tell me about them and how did they support this idea?
So my parents, my father, Robert Churchwell Sr., my father was a newspaper reporter. He was the first African-American newspaper reporter for a major metropolitan newspaper in the South.
Wow, that's no easy deal.
He was recruited and joined the Nashville Banner, which at that time in Nashville was the afternoon paper by Greg Stallman in 1950, I think is the right, 51 or 50. And so when we talk about an interesting life story, the 5 kids, we always say that his was the great story to tell, because what he saw the great developments of the civil rights movement, of education, of all the things firsthand throughout this country because of where he was and the work that he did. My mother was a homemaker when I was born. The story was that I have an identical twin brother, and we're the last of 5.
Oh. And
I was unexpected. There was my brother, and then somehow there was a second, right? And the story was that after about 6 months, she turned to her best friend and said, "If I don't get out of this house, these 2 kids are going to drive me crazy." So she decided to go back and get her undergraduate degree in education and became a school teacher, and then her master's. And she was a school teacher for 1st and 2nd, 3rd grade for over 30 years before her retirement.
So she leaves home. She leaves home to get with more children.
Yep. Well, so that's interesting, but the impact was actually quite large. Those kids in those neighborhoods, they all remember my mother. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what was fostered in that household by my parents was education and striving for goals to be set, and significant expectations around whether it be working in the classroom or playing tennis or working with others within the community of church and the other activities that we did. So that you are. I'm sorry, I missed your question. So
that makes you who you. All that stuff made you who you are. That gave you a good foundation for.
Very much so. Very much so. Yes.
And so you graduate high school. You go off to college.
Yes.
And you go to undergrad.
Went to Harvard.
Did you say Harvard?
Yeah.
And what was that experience like? I mean, here you are, a Nashville, Tennessee boy going to New England.
Oh, it's fine. I had a great time. made great friends. My twin brother went to MIT, so he was just down the road. So I had some family in the area. And it was a great experience for me.
Mm-hmm. So bring me to this point in your life now, as
Yes.
the new president. What do you want to make your mark to be? Like, what do you think about when you step into this new job in October? In October, correct? You start in October.
Yeah. October 5th. Yes.
So what do you do? Do you come with a plan? Do you come with a vision? Do you come with, I'd like to work on this. I like to work on that. I think we need to do this over here. Do you come with that set of goals and ideas?
That's a great question. And I've been giving it a bit of thought, and I'm still sort of forming those particular ideas even as we speak. Yale New Haven Hospital and Yale New Haven Health System is a great institution. It has done, and it continues to do spectacular work. I have enjoyed immensely my 5.5 years time here in New Haven and working with all of these fantastic people within the administration and within and all the physicians and nursing staff. So I see my role not so much as a role that should revolutionize what Yale New Haven Hospital does, but actually as an evolution of sort of the next steps along the journey of making us a spectacular and really a top 5 clinical institution nationally in regards to the delivery of healthcare. So, and part of that is actually sort of, there are immediate goals. I mean, we continue to work towards and work in the pandemic of COVID. And we have those issues that we have to deal with, both clinically, financially, and administratively, that actually hope and help us work ultimately to get us through this particular pandemic. So those are the immediate issues that we have to continue to work through.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel, what are your thoughts around COVID that seems to disproportionately affect Black and brown people in the way that it does?
Yep.
Do you pay attention to that? Do you have some thought about that, insight into that? Do you feel like you put your attention there at all?
Yeah, so it is not surprising. One could have predicted and we did, and we should have predicted that this would actually have a markedly significant and even greater impact on communities of color. And within not only Yale New Haven and New Haven, Connecticut, and the state of Connecticut, but across the country. The issues of the predisposing risk factors for not only getting COVID, but also having greater complications from the coronavirus, affect the African-American population, the Hispanic populations for New Haven, as one example, to an even greater percentage than the rest of the population. Those factors of hypertension, diabetes, obesity, and the economic factors that actually and the social determinants of health, which have huge impacts in terms of not only the delivery of care, but also the state of care for the individual and for populations, has a much greater impact on our populations that we've actually sort of detailed. So that COVID or coronavirus would actually have even a larger impact, both from the morbidity of the virus, but also from the mortality of the virus, should not have surprised us. And we need to continue to understand those particular factors and how we can mitigate those factors to improve them from a health perspective, and use this as an opportunity for us to develop pathways of care, opportunities for the better delivery of care for the population of patients that we actually take care of every single day. So I'm not surprised. I think it actually has been an important and a great conversation. I think the next steps is actually going to think through how do we actually improve the health lot of those individuals who are actually not only affected by COVID in this particular way, but would be affected again by the next pandemic or the next issue or the next health issue that they're actually ongoingly being affected by now and improve their overall health care.
So do you think that the hospital has a role to play in mitigating these morbidities, yeah. Do you think? Where should we start having these larger conversations about these particular communities?
So I think we're working to have those larger conversations both locally and regionally and nationally as part of the work that that I have been a part of. Uh, and thinking through what are going to be some of the factors that are going to help us towards solutions. How do we continue to work towards a better understanding, but also pathways of care that we can continue to evolve that actually puts the patient in the center of the overall matrix, and then understanding what the needs of that patient are in regards to their overall health, whether it be medication needs, supporting architecture in terms of their overall development, how they can actually do better in terms of getting to the right healthcare provider, how they can get their medications, how we can help them in terms of mitigating their overall health. That's more than just medications in terms of their weight control or blood pressure control. And then what are the other constituencies that we continue to join with to think through the overall development from an economic standpoint and a social development for the communities that are surround us and that we serve. So, I mean, there's a lot of work to do. I think there are a lot of very good people who actually are now who continue to be involved in this work. How do we then translate the findings that we found into really true actions are going to be part of the next steps as we continue to sort of work through this pandemic.
So, Dr. Churchwell, should we be thinking about hospitals as businesses or because you have to make money, but the rising cost of healthcare seems to be, it doesn't seem to be flattening out or leveling out, at least from where I sit. I don't know. I'm just a regular person, but I get the sense that, healthcare costs are rising and people are finding it increasingly difficult to pay for the care that they need, particularly on the backs of not having adequate health care, health insurance. How do we think about the providers of these services versus the people who need these services? How do we close that gap?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't have a complete answer for you. I can say that when we look at the rising cost of healthcare over the past 10 years, actually the curve has started to flatten because of the issues that you're talking about, the complexity of care, the newer technologies that continue to lead to a higher cost. We have to continue to mitigate because patients have to be able to feel like they actually can get the best care health care that they can within the cost structure that actually is available to us. And this is actually resources from their employer and resources from the government, and also the important role that health systems and hospitals have to play in regards to delivering that care, both on the inpatient side and on the ambulatory side. So there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work in terms of understanding the overall, not only cost structure, but how we can deliver care more efficiently, how we can actually decrease the overall cost by actually making people healthier. One of the things that we know is that if we can get people healthier, the overall cost of care will go down. So it's more than just, again, the medications that we give, but also in terms of how do we continue to evolve and improve the overall lifestyle for our patients so that they are healthier, whether it be and that's exercise, that actually is their overall mental health, and they're also on their economic health. Mm-hmm. Institutions like Yale New Haven hospitals serve obviously they're an incredible resource. They're a viable part of the community. We employ tens of thousands of individuals. So we have a huge impact on the economics of New Haven City, but also in the state of Connecticut. That's incredibly vibrant, but incredibly important. So we have to be economically healthy. But we also work to be and continue to work to be good stewards of not only those funds, but of the opportunity of actually making our population healthier, which will lead to a reduction in overall healthcare cost.
Mm-hmm. So when you look around the world, is there any sort of healthcare system in the world that you look at and say, you know what, we really ought to be doing that here?
That's a great question. And as you look around the world, there are a number of interesting examples of healthcare systems that have a different, single payer versus multiple payers that we have. that have some degree of success in terms of the delivery of care. I think importantly, what we continue to work towards modeling is how we have a greater impact on the community of care for patients. That's going to be incredibly important. How we pay for care, that everyone should have the opportunity to have their health care paid for and not actually have a bill that actually leads them to actually have to go into debtor's prison, is incredibly important. But then how do we think about the longitudinal continuity of care for that patient is actually vital, because that's going to actually make patients healthier. The episodic care that we actually tend to deliver, which is actually a patient comes to the hospital, has an acute illness, we quote unquote fix the illness and they go home. It is not surprising that they come back to see us on a regular basis. Working towards actually developing a plan of care and a relationship with patients and families so that we can monitor and also be part of the overall process for the improvement of their overall care and well-being is going to be key as we work to evolve our healthcare system.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so when you step into this role in October, you have a lot to think about. I mean, you have a lot of oars to put in the water. So when you make this, Dr. Churchwell, what is your style? How do you make the decisions that move forward, up, down, left, or right?
Right. Yeah. My wife would say that I'm sometimes wrong, but never in doubt. So I have to work on that part of the style.
I like that. That's pretty good.
But I think what really works, in my experience, if I always feel that I've had some degree of success and a little bit of failure, but I've learned from failure. I hope as I've gone forward, is that decision-making opportunities work towards bringing a community together to listen to diverse and different viewpoints, to really get to what's the real truth, what the real opportunity is, and what's the real pathway for us to be able to go forward. So I have worked on trying to listen better. I sometimes can spill out 10 or 12 great, what I think are great ideas and opportunities, and this is the pathway forward. Listening to others to ensure that that constituencies that are incredibly important in all this, whether it be other physicians, nursing staff, administrative support, families, patients, is going to be really important in terms of how we make decisions. I'm a big believer in actually striving for that every single issue, every single item that may come onto my desk that actually needs to be noodled is really an opportunity for us to actually to improve. To actually to strive for what we have inscribed on our pyramid of values and mission for this health system. If we align ourselves and understand all the decision making that we need to do sits with and is consistent with our mission and values for Yale New Haven Hospital for the health system, then we're going to be right. We're actually going to be on the right path in that particular regard. So I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with feedback. I think I'm comfortable with feedback. But are any of us? I mean, at least I nod and listen, go home and grumble about it, and then the next day come back and say there was kernel of truth, and that was what was just said to me. And there is an opportunity to sort of take that and put it together, and actually it's better than what it was before. Mm-hmm. So, I'm a big believer in that. And I'm also a big believer in that you've got to lead. You can't, at some point along the way, you got to put yourself out there to help and to be a part of the solution as we work through problems. So I guess that's my style.
I love that you're sitting in this position. But I will say, and I can't leave this conversation without talking about this. There is a real historical history. There's a real historical experience of Black people in the medical profession and not always being treated fairly and treated well. And that seems to be at the heart of a lot of the reasons why we don't participate. We, meaning Black people and brown people, don't participate in research studies. that we are not quick to run to the doctor. We're not first to be preemptive about our care. Is that something that you could speak to a little bit about
Sure.
where you see us?
Yeah. So a little explanation. So as part of my experience as a physician, I was actually the chief resident at Grady Memorial Hospital. You know Grady?
No.
Grady is the city hospital for Atlanta, Georgia. It is the main teaching hospital for Emory University, and that was some 25 years ago. So that's where I actually did my training. Number one, I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, in East Nashville on North 9th Street. So the interaction with and the working with individuals who actually have in the past felt with and appropriately felt that they were not as represented in regards to the development of medical care, and also not taken into real consideration in regards to how that care is not only delivered, but where they need to sit in the overall continuum in terms of the evaluation of true research, right? This is an ongoing issue. This is an issue that we need to continue to deal with. And so how to fix that? Number one, we have to explain better. And part of the explanation is that we have not, over the past 60 to 70 years, as we've actually had a significant increase in the amount of clinical research and research dollars available for the development of medical discovery for individuals, taken into consideration and work towards developing pathways of care that actually centrally speak towards populations that in the past we didn't really take into consideration. Great majority of the previous generation and 2 generations ago in terms of research trials and studies were really centered themselves on just on white males, as opposed to even thinking about white females or black males or black females or Hispanics. So we have to take that, we are working to do better. Number two, the idea of a research study or being part of a research needs to be thought of as an opportunity to help develop new pathways of care that not only affect you but it may affect your children and have a positive effect on your children or your grandchildren. And that we have to do a better job of explaining that, and also keeping people abreast of what the findings are and what we're actually trying to accomplish, and also ask them how these studies should be developed, how we need to incorporate their ideas, and explaining to others that we want to be a part of these studies of their overall benefits and the overall risk, and ensuring that those particular, what we find out is then relayed to those particular participants. So they feel like that they're really part of something much larger, and that we actually are truly investing in in the individual and the population that we have not done before. That you're just not a research study participant, and that in that you're being treated in a way that is actually not appropriate. And we can think about multiple studies that has been the case in the past, unfortunately, like Tuskegee being a great example. But you are part of not only something larger, but importantly, you are helping us and helping ourselves sort of work towards a better pathway of care. And that our responsibility to you is to inform, to make sure that you feel like you're a part of, to listen, to incorporate your ideas about how studies should actually be produced, and that whatever comes from those studies, that you are informed about, whether it be positive or negative, and then how we're going to incorporate that data in actually improving care. So, it's not easy. It's not easy work. There's nothing easy about all that. It's actually hard. There's actually great work being done on this campus through Tisha Johnson and others, and the Yale Ambassadors Program that speaks directly to that. That's the dialogue we have to have if we're going to actually work towards an improvement in thinking about the delivery of care and the new opportunities and the new discoveries that is actually going to help the whole population as opposed to just parts of the population.
So do you think, Dr. Churchwell, that once we get past this pandemic, that there'll be other pandemics that we must concern ourselves with?
Oh, oh, sure, of course. Yes, there will be. I mean, this is not COVID is actually, unfortunately, a rather deadly combination that is of a virus that has just the right infectivity rate, and unfortunately, and also has a lethality rate that has made it incredibly prominent, not only in this country but across the world. But it's not the first one, and it's not even the first one in the past 20 years that we have had to fight. So it won't be the last. So having a public health infrastructure, or a greater public health infrastructure, is going to be incredibly important. One of the lessons learned. And then working towards, and what lessons we've learned in terms of being able to keep people safe, to become more efficient, and safeguards within our own health environment are lessons that we can continue to incorporate, and work towards not only developing what the institutions we already have, but also thinking about the next level, next generation of institutions that we need to build that actually take all this into consideration.
Mm. So let me switch gears, because I know you have to go because you're quite busy. Talk to me a little bit about what's on your nightstand these days. What are you reading? Who are you reading?
What am I reading?
Yeah.
So it's not on my nightstand, it's actually on the TV console. There are about 10 books. And every night I go and I say, I'm about to start that next book, and I open it up, and 30 seconds later I'm asleep. But the next book is actually a biography of a memoir of Willie Mays called 24 that came out, actually. Willie Mays was a spectacular. Willie Mays was the best baseball player in the history of.
Are you a baseball person?
Well, I'm a baseball player. I'm a football person. I'm a tennis person. I'm a kind of a sports person, but I'm truly I'm an icon person. And Willie Mays is an icon because Willie Mays was the best. He was the best center fielder. He's probably the best hitter. He's the best base stealer. You know, there's a great quote from Clete Boyer. He says, when Willie Mays center field, that's where fly balls went to go and die, because he never dropped a ball. And he never actually stopped. If he hit a ball into right field for base hit, he never stopped at first base. He always went to second, if at all possible. Willie Mays was an amazing player, and is still such a jovial and humble and great human being. So he's an icon. And from that, I love reading about him, because then I learn about how someone evolves. I mean, it's a combination of incredible natural talent, but also will, and also worked to actually develop that type of skill. So there's a biography of Leonardo da Vinci on my nightstand by Walter Isaacson. It's a big book, so it's going to take me a while to get through it. But I love Da Vinci because, again, number one, he was left-handed. You know, he wrote backwards. All of his everything is actually backwards, so that it was in code, so that you'd have to use a mirror to actually read what he had written.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was a true polyglot, because he was not only an artist, but he was an engineer, and he was an architect. And he was also a pain in the rear. He actually painted the Mona Lisa for the Gioconda family. He never gave them the portrait. He took the money, but he never gave them the portrait.
I did not know that either.
He liked it so much, and he actually kept working on it. He took their money, but he never gave them the portrait. The portrait at the end of his death, he gave it to Charles V, who actually he lived with at the end, and it hung in Charles V's bathroom for years and years, right? So a remarkable personality. So understanding personality, and there's some books about leadership, and there's some there are books about. There's a book I'm supposed to read about tap dancing. I love tap dancing.
Me too.
And the history of tap dancing. So I have promised to myself I'm getting through this book.
Do you dance? Do you dance?
Oh gosh, no. Oh, don't say that. No, you don't say that. My wife would laugh hysterically if you actually.
But you can take lessons. It's not too late.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I'll give that some thought. So there's a book. I have a book on I have a book on Nelson Riddle on my nightstand. You know what Nelson Riddle is?
Yes,
Nelson,
the musician.
The musician, actually, the composer and the arranger. He was Sinatra's greatest arranger. He was the greatest. He was Nat King Cole's. He arranged Mona Lisa, for example. He was the go-to arranger at Capitol. He was an amazing individual, just and remarkable in what his, again, true genius there. So trying to understand a bit about genius. So those are a couple of things on the nightstand, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Favorite film?
Citizen Kane.
Really? I
Yes.
would have never picked that, but I think I
best,
could understand it.
Best film ever made. Best film ever made.
Really? Why?
Oh, I mean, if you view it today, it is as vibrant, as fresh as when he made it in 41, 42. I can't think of actually the date. It's the innovation that Wells brought to cinema through that film was remarkable, and it's a great story. I mean, it's one that people come back to. From all the way from Raiders of the Lost Ark actually ends with an homage to Citizen Kane. So, when I was in college, I ran a theater society for our house. So I got an opportunity to actually show it one weekend, and it had a huge impact on me. So it's my favorite film.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time this morning, and I'm excited to see what you do. I saw you taking part in the census and the need for the census.
Oh, yes.
I saw that up in the New Haven Independent, which is a big deal. And I appreciate you being out front, leading that call to being counted. That's a good thing.
Incredibly important. All right.
Thank you so much, Dr. Churchwell. Good luck to you. I hope I get to talk to you again like halfway through your term to see how you're feeling, see how you're doing.
Well, it's great talking to you again.
Nice to see you. Have a good one. Take care.
Thank
you, Dana. You have a great team of people.
Oh, yes. Thankfully.
They are really incredible. All right, Harry. Dr. Churchwell is leaving us. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day, sir. I'll see you around.
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.